Can a song change the world? Can a very famous song reach Donald Trump and influence people? Is there Nazism in Ukraine? We asked the chief rabbi of Ukraine, Moshe Azman, about these and other issues.
Wojciech Jankowski, Paweł Bobołowicz, Black Sky, Stop Fake. Welcome to the podcast.
Donald Trump, it's time to fight in the name of light, in the name of light. Donald Trump, it's time to fight in the name of light, in the name of light.
Our guest is Chief Rabbi of Ukraine, Moshe Azman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Dear Rabbi, in an unusual form, namely a song, you appealed to Donald Trump for help for Ukraine in its struggle. Why a song, and has Donald Trump responded to this appeal? Has there been any reaction from Jewish communities in the United States of America?
This idea came to me from the Almighty, and well, in our holy books, it is written that words that come from the heart reach other hearts, and that is exactly what happened. Last week I was in Kiev. I'm there all the time, basically, and all those explosions, it's very difficult. I heard the explosions. Russian missiles hit the center of Kiev. I went there and saw with my own eyes the atrocities they committed, and it's not the first time. It's not the first time I've seen something like this. There were many wounded and killed. The losses are enormous. I started writing this song before that, but I finished it quickly because I felt I had to. It's not even a song, it's an appeal from the heart, something between a song and a prayer. I don't know if Donald Trump has heard it yet, but I'm sure he will. Hundreds of thousands of people have already heard it, maybe even 1 million. I also sent the song to people close to Donald Trump, to those I know, to people in Washington and other cities, and I'm sure it will reach him. I think every word in this song or prayer speaks for itself. And then there's the music and the video. People write to me, call me, thank me. People cry. I can see that it has touched the hearts of millions. I also hope that it will touch Donald Trump's heart. And not just his, it should reach everyone around him and everyone else. How can I put it? I sing from the bottom of my heart. I'm just telling the truth. I'm spreading the truth because the truth is the truth.
You mentioned millions of people who may have already heard this message to Donald Trump. I would like to ask, has this message also reached Jewish communities in the United States? Can you count on the support of American Jews?
I didn't do it specifically for the Jewish community in the US. It wasn't intentional. I did it for the whole world, for the United States. That's why I'm reaching out to all the members of the Jewish community I know and asking them to try to pass this on to Donald Trump or someone close to him so that they can show it to him. I don't think it was done exclusively for the Jewish community, although I often speak in front of Jewish audiences in the US. But how can I put it? It's a common prayer to everyone.
Dear Rabbi, first of all, I would like to thank you for this song. It is very beautiful and extremely moving, and it is very important at a time when the world is forgetting about the war to be able to hear your voice. I would like to ask, in your speech, you say that Russia, Russians, they always lie, they always hide a blade. And Donald Trump, in his statement, said again that Putin allegedly wants to stop the war. Can Putin's words be believed? And why, in your opinion, does Donald Trump believe this?
Путін і чому Дональд Трамп в це вірить?
Знаете, я небольшой, невеликий политик. То, что они брешут, так
I am
сказать,
not a
это
politician,
я не
but I will
могу
say
значит,
this.
доверять
They are
телевидению,
lying.
телебачению
Just
российскому.
turn on
Когда
Russian
я
television, lies are
дивился
pouring
по
out.
телебачению, они там
Because they call white black and
100%
black white.
брехни, там,
This is, of course, a way for them
белое за
to, so to
черное,
speak,
черное за белое,
brainwash their people, their
вот.
viewers.
И это мы разумеем, так сказать, или они, так сказать, как бы зомбируют своих телеглядачей, что называется.
I have
Но я
spoken
это
to
знаю,
people
я
from
встречался, я
Russia. I
вообще
have spoken to
столковался
them
с
since the
Россией
very
с
beginning of the war.
начатку войны, и
I
они
explained what was
когда я
happening
говорю,
here.
вот
I
там вот
showed
не
them,
верят,
but they
когда я
don't believe
говорю,
anything. I
вот
told
я
them,
здесь, я вам
I'm
говорю,
filming a
вот я
movie,
снимаю
here
вас,
I
вот
am, come
приезжайте
and see
сюда,
for
это
yourselves when it was
можно
still
было приехать,
possible.
и вы
But
подивитесь,
nothing
какая там
came of it.
нет,
They
лучше
believe their television more
верить
than
своему
the living
телебачению больше, чем
witnesses of what
свидетелям,
is
так сказать,
happening,
которые находятся
those who are directly
как бы
there.
это
How
диагноз.
can this be
Вот,
explained? It's a diagnosis.
тому, що Дональд Трамп, смотрите, я не обвиняю Дональда Трампа, потому что
I don't
я
blame Donald Trump.
надеюсь, что
I
у
still
него
hope
такая,
that
он бизнесмен, и у
this
него
is just
такая,
his approach. He
как
is a
бы, мне
businessman.
кажется, на мой
And I
взгляд,
think that's his
такая,
style of negotiation. Of course, I would like him to
как
call a
сказать,
spade.
манера, назовем так, манера вести переговоры, назовем так. Потому
But I think
что
that in negotiations, it is important that
говорю,
both
то
sides
есть он,
trust him.
конечно, так сказать,
It's not
хотелось бы,
easy
так
for
сказать,
me
разделить
either.
все времена,
I
но
don't
я
always
думаю,
like it
переговорам
myself.
должен,
But I
чтобы
think that in order
обе
to reach an agreement, he takes this approach with all
не то, что нравится
dictators.
такая самая, но я думаю,
That's how he
чтобы
does things.
домовиться, нужно, так сказать, нужно как бы он такой типа, что этот хороший, у всех,
Is
ну,
Putin
разных
my
диктаторов
friend?
так это делают.
But Putin understands that
Он, видно,
Trump
так
is not
сказать, он
joking and
разумеет, что
can
он не
act
шутит, и
tough.
он
I don't
просто,
think Trump is
не
fully
думаю, что он,
aware of
я
what's
думаю,
going
что он все
on here.
разумеет, что робится.
Although
Хотя,
I
так
think
сказать, я
he
думаю,
gets
что ему доносят,
information
потому что ему
from
тоже с
various
разных сторон все
sources.
это. Поэтому
So
я не знаю,
I don't know. It's not
я
my
веду данные,
business. I
там
don't have reliable
знаете, я
information.
не,
I don't
как сказать,
guess. I
гадаю.
do what I
Я
can
рублю то, что я
and
могу
what I have
рубить.
to
Я уже,
do. I do
я
what
уже
I
было, так
believe
сказать,
in.
опыт. Есть опыт, что кожна людина может, так сказать, делать то, что она кожа может і должна робити, що вона може
I have
робити.
experience.
І коли ти
I have
насправді ведеш
experience that every
прямо
person can and should do
відкриваються двері,
something.
які
And if you act truthfully, if you are open, all doors are open to you. I was in the United States meeting people with whom others didn't even have the opportunity to meet without any connections. I met them and they listened to me and accepted me. Although I am not a representative of the authorities, I am not a member of a party, I don't work for anyone, I work for only one person, for the Most High, and that's all.
и благословение просили туда. Вот, и поэтому я
That is why they listened to me and asked for my blessing. That is why I try to reach every heart, and I have proof of that. A few weeks ago, Pastor Mark Burns from the United States, we had met several times. I invited him to Ukraine. He spent 2 days here. He saw everything with his own eyes, and he changed his mind about the war.
Я его запросил в Украину, он был здесь два дома, 2 дня.
Now he gives interviews every day and tells the truth about Ukraine. He shares what is happening here. He talks about how he talked to Ukrainians, to people who are living in wartime. He talked to people from Ukraine, and everything became clear to him. Here is my opinion. This is exactly how it should be done.
It's a personal understanding and it's very important. You yourself say that you are in places that are under Russian missiles, under Russian bombs. The war affects you directly. It has also tragically affected your family. Your son was killed in the war, fighting for Ukraine. We are truly sorry because this war is also your personal perspective.
Ну, я вам кажу, да, так, он,
Let me put it this
Matatiyahu
way.
или Антон,
Matityaha,
який
that is Anton,
был,
was a very
дуже
good, dignified
в
man.
нього це була дуже гарна людина, дуже це приклад того, що кожне, я говорю, знаєте, от по телебаченню багато раз говорять,
I often
цивільний
point
і
out one thing.
військовий,
On
цивільний
television,
військовий.
they
Я говорю,
often
що
say,
військовий
this
це
one
теж
is a
цивільний.
civilian and
Це
this
ті,
one
це
is a soldier. And I keep
чоловіки, які,
repeating,
так сказати, вчора
soldiers
були
are
там
civilians
інженерами,
too. They are
врачами,
people who yesterday were
товаришами,
engineers, musicians,
лікарями,
doctors. They were
або
treating people not
музикантами,
long
або
ago.
ким-то
They
еще.
didn't want to
Они
attack
не
anyone, to
хотели идти
assault anyone.
ни на кого нападать. Видя, они пришла, так сказать, армия российская сюда, и они пошли защищать свою страну, свою родину, свою
This
дружину,
tragedy
свою
has befallen them.
батьківщину.
The Russian
І
army
все, так сказать,
arrived and they
Росія
were
теж
forced to take
цивільний.
up
Також і він.
arms to
Його
defend their
призвали
country,
в
their
травні
families, their wives, their
24
homeland.
року. Його призвали
They
в
are the
армію.
same civilians.
Він був, ми його усиновили, це мій син, який ми його в 10 років. Це єврейський хлопчик, ми його усиновили з детского дому, він у нас жив дома 10 років, поки він не став взрослим. Вот. Очень
Matityaha was also
гарний хлопчик,
drafted in
і
May
ми його виростили. Он у
2024.
нас, як у нас,
He was my
как
adopted
все наши
son. We
остальные
raised him
дети,
in
он
our
тоже
home for
вырос, и
10
он
years until he became an adult. He went to
пошел,
war. A
и
few months
через
later, in July, he died heroically on the front
месяца,
line.
в июле, в липне. В липне он героично погиб на фронте. Вот, и
What can I
жалко,
say?
знаете, то есть вот так
Many
багато
Ukrainian
українців,
families
там у
are
каждого родственника
experiencing
є
the same
трагедія.
pain, the same
Трагедія в
losses,
війни,
the
тому що
same
війна
tragedy.
застав
It is a
кожного
tragedy
друга,
because
як
this
єврейського,
war
так
has
і
reached
Другої
every
світової.
home, just like the
Вот
Jewish
Другої
people
світової
during World
війни
War
у
II.
кожного єврея є какая-то
Every
трагедія
Jewish
дома, тому
family
що
lost someone.
кого-то убили в
Someone died
лагерях,
in the death camps, someone else
смерть
in
была,
other
або еще.
places. The same is true today for the
Зараз
Ukrainian people.
багато українців
Many have died,
поранено,
many have been disabled, many
жінок
women have been widowed,
осталось
and children have
вдовами,
been orphaned.
багато дітей сиротами, і тому
We
от
have experienced such a
переживаємо
tragedy.
такої
That is
трагедії,
why I believe that
тому я кажу, що
evil
це
must
зло
be
должно
stopped.
зупинитися, можна зупинити.
Rabbi, the Russians accuse Ukraine of Nazism and claim that a regime is in power here. When they say this, what is your opinion? What do you think about it?
Ну, по-перше,
I have been answering this question since the beginning of the war. I have answered it many times. Why did I smile? Because I remembered how I recently watched an interview with President Zelensky by American journalist Ben Shapiro. It was an interview in which the president also answered the same question asked by Ben Shapiro, and the president also smiled. He said, "What Nazism? I'm Jewish."
Зеленский говорит, я же, типа, он же даже еврей по национальности.
I keep repeating, what Nazism are you talking about? Ukrainians have free elections. In Russia, there are no elections there. One usurper has been ruling for 20, maybe even 30 years. I don't even know how long. In Ukraine, the president changes every 4, 5, or 8 years. There was Kuchma, Yushchenko, Yanukovych, Poroshenko, and now Zelensky. It is a democratic country. Here, presidents are really elected.
Зеленский. Кожного дня демократичная країна вибирає, так сказати, других президентів.
73% of citizens elected a Jew as president. I didn't ask them to, they chose him themselves. I didn't ask them to elect a Jew, no one even asked me about it. Ukrainians simply made their choice.
Тому в Україні
Nationalist parties did not even make it into parliament. And I am not talking about Nazi parties, but ordinary nationalist parties, which, by the way, are not a bad thing, and even they were not elected to the Verkhovna Rada. What is more, few countries in the world have legislation providing for criminal liability for anti-Semitism. In Ukraine, such a law exists, and it works. This is a great achievement for Ukraine. A few years ago, the Verkhovna Rada passed a law to this effect, and it really works. I always say, we, Jews, Russians, Ukrainians, lived well here until the Russian aggression. No one invited them here. No one asked for denazification. No one asked them to come here and kill people. And they are killing everyone, Ukrainians, Jews, Russians. They are killing everyone. And they don't ask what nationality you are. I remember myself how at the beginning of the war they shot people in the Kiev region. They shot at cars without even stopping them. They didn't ask anyone anything. There could have been Ukrainians, Russians, Jews in those cars, anyone. For example, in Bucha, they killed a member of our community, our synagogue, Zamoyski. They killed him for no reason. He was a very peaceful, good man. They shot him. And he was a man who wouldn't hurt a fly. That's why, looking at what the Russians are doing, I think they should look in the mirror first, and that's why accusations of Nazism against Ukraine are simply ridiculous. There are no Nazis here. For me, it's absurd.
Dear Rabbi, we have already spoken. I asked you about the connections and reactions of Jewish communities in the United States. But I think I can even say with certainty that you also know Jews living in Russia. You know these communities. You probably have contact with many of them. You can call them, talk to them in person. What do they say? What is their attitude? How do they view this war?
I have addressed them many times. The first and probably the most well-known was my appeal on March 1st, 2022. At that time, holding Torah scrolls in my hands, I addressed the Jews, but not only them, I also addressed the Russians. My Russian is at a native speaker level because I was born and raised in Leningrad, which was then part of the Soviet Union and is now part of Russia. I addressed them. It was a cry from my soul. Stop the war. What are you doing? After all, we studied from the same textbooks, watched the same films, showing how German troops and tanks first invaded Poland and then the Soviet Union. We saw how they killed everyone, including civilians, and now we see Russian tanks killing people. Tanks are firing directly at civilian homes. I beg them to stop. Then I called on them to leave Russia because a new Iron Curtain is falling because Russia is returning to the ideology of the USSR. There, they openly glorify Stalin, portraying him as a great leader and hero. I myself left the Soviet Union in 1987 because I did not want to live in an empire of lies and evil. That is why I do not want the Soviet Union to be reborn.
Тому що не хотів жити в імперії лжи, зла. І тому я не хочу, щоб повернувся Радянський Союз. Україна хотіла
Ukraine sought to leave the USSR, and it did. And now Russia is trying to drag it back by force. I also appealed to Jews living in Russia, asking them to leave as soon as possible so that they would not be mobilized, so that they would not kill innocent people and die themselves. And if they refused, I told them not to go to prison for 10 years, because if they did not do so in time, there might be no choice left. Unfortunately, I don't have any data on how many of them listen to me, but I know that today they cannot speak freely or openly express their opinions. They do not live in a free and democratic country. They cannot say anything against the authorities because those authorities spare no one. In today's Russia, you can be held criminally responsible for simply saying the word peace. That is why I do not judge anyone, but if I were in their place, I would leave, if only to avoid being forced to cooperate with this government.
My friend Wojciech asked about Ukraine's accusations of Nazism, but even considering what you just said, it is Putin's regime that could be called Nazi. What do you think? Is it already Nazism, or is it just getting closer to it?
I'm telling you, on their television, they openly say that bombs should be dropped on Europe, on European cities, and not just on Ukraine. They claim that they have privatized the victory in World War II and decided that they have the exclusive right to consider themselves the only ones who defeated Nazism. They forget to mention that they received enormous assistance from the United States under the Lend-Lease program. Military operations were conducted by Great Britain and many other countries. Ukraine also fought against the Nazis. Now they have appropriated the right to determine who is a Nazi, who is a fascist, and who is not. And it is not just about Ukrainians. According to their logic, Europeans are also fascists. Poles are Nazis, Ukrainians, Europeans, Americans, everyone is a Nazi. Today, they can call anyone a Nazi. If they want to, they do. Tomorrow, they will say that Jews are also Nazis. This means that they have decided whoever they call a Nazi will be a Nazi. And in the meantime, they themselves cooperate with regimes, with tyrants, with Iran, with North Korea. I, for example, can even formulate a mathematical equation. The Iranian regime openly declares that it seeks to destroy the Jews, to destroy the Jewish state, all Jews in Israel and beyond. They say outright what they want. So who is the fascist? This is, after all, the goal of Nazi Germany. Thank God Iran is not being allowed to achieve this. On the contrary, this regime will fall. And now the Russians, in alliance with Iran, are transferring nuclear technology to them and helping them. Iran, in turn, is supplying Russia with Shaheds, which are bombing us here in Ukraine every day. And North Korea, we all know what kind of regime it is, a Stalinist regime. These are just a few examples, but the pattern is completely obvious. It's clear as day. I say, now, just as in World War II, when there was an axis of Germany, Japan, Italy, and others, today there is also an axis of evil. These are countries that are helping Russia, Iran, North Korea. Previously there was also Syria, but now, thank God, things are a little calmer. There is also Hamas, Hezbollah, and others, small satellites that Russia is helping. The Russians should look in the mirror. What's more, after October 7th, 2023, when Hamas organized a massacre in Israel, the Russians welcomed a Hamas delegation just 2 days later. They don't call Hamas terrorists. They don't recognize it. For them, it's taboo. They help them in every way possible. Hamas uses Russian weapons, as does Hezbollah, and Hezbollah kills Jews in Israel. That is why they really should look in the mirror.
Dear Rabbi, how do you think this war should end? Do you allow for a scenario in which Ukraine agrees to give up part of its territory?
I am not a strategist, a military man, or a politician. I pray that Trump will be able to stop the war. He is right. Many people are dying every day. Yes, ceding territory does not necessarily mean defeat in war. We have the example of Finland. In the 1940s, it lost part of its territory to the Soviet Union, but the USSR was unable to do anything with Finland itself. It gave up territory but retained its statehood, and today, according to polls, Finns are the happiest people in the world. So they managed to defend their independence. But I am not saying that, God forbid. In Ukraine, the issue of ceding territory is perceived extremely painfully, and this is completely understandable. I'm not going to give any advice. At the same time, human lives are at stake. Every day, people are dying, soldiers are dying, civilians are dying. These are lives that cannot be brought back. But the most important thing is real, lasting peace. Peace that will guarantee that tomorrow Russia will not resume the war and people will not start dying again.
Dear Rabbi, thank you very much for meeting with us and talking to us. Thank you also for your song appeal. As Wojciech has already said, we are very impressed. Would you like to address our Polish viewers separately? Perhaps you would like to convey a special message?
I would like to thank the Polish people for their help to Ukraine. I thank the Polish authorities for their support. Ukraine fighting for its independence is also fighting for the freedom of Poland. Today we see this particularly clearly. Russia openly declares that Poland and the Baltic states will be its next targets. I believe that Poles understand this well. I would like to express my gratitude to you and bless the Polish people. May you continue to support Ukraine both morally and materially. Together we will defeat evil. Together light will defeat darkness. Thank you very much and God bless you. We are waiting for the Messiah. May the Almighty send him to us, and when he comes, all wars will end in Israel, in Ukraine, and throughout the world.
Thank you very much. We were joined by the Chief Rabbi of Ukraine, Moshe Azman. We wish you peaceful skies.
Wielkie spasibo.
All this lie, they always hide the blade. The throne of Tsar is built on fear and hate. They don't want peace, they want just blood and fire. It's time to crush the evil empire. Donald Trump, it's time to fight in the name of light, in the name of light. Donald Trump, it's time to fight in the name of light, in the name of light.
I will end the war in Ukraine, I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III from happening, and you have no idea how close we are.
All eyes on you. It's time to stop this pain. We pray for peace here under missile rain. You hold the key. The page is yours to write. And God bless you for bringing peace and light. Donald Trump, it's time to fight in the name of light, in the name